Welcome back to Layers of Life. I first want to apologize for how long it's taking me to get this episode launched. The beginning of this year has been so unpredictable, is the best word that I can think of. It has been a roller coaster of emotions, and I don't want to get into a whole lot. I just want to say I appreciate you all for being patient with me and for still supporting me and coming here and listening. Today, we're going to uncover the truth behind the foods and medications we consume daily. We're diving deep into an issue that affects millions of people: artificial dyes in food and medicine. Did you know those bright, vibrant colors that are in our food, snacks, and medications might be doing more harm than good? Today, we are going to discuss what these dyes are. I want to dive into the history of them, the effect of them, my personal story. So stick around because you don't want to miss this eye-opening discussion. Welcome, everyone. And what I want to do first is dive into the basics. And now let's start with a brief history of artificial dyes. Let me be your history teacher for the next few minutes. To start off, dyes come in two forms, and that is natural and synthetic. Natural dyes are derived from plant based sources like beet juice and turmeric. On the other hand, artificial dyes, as you've all, I'm sure, have heard of it, red 40, yellow 5, and blue 1, are created with petroleum based chemicals. These dyes are added to make food and medications basically just more visually appealing, but are they really necessary? In my opinion, no, they're not, but everybody has their own opinion. You would be surprised at how often artificial dyes are in cereals, to children's vitamins, to even marshmallows. Yes, I said that. Marshmallows. And I was absolutely blown away when I found this out. Even peanut butter. There are some peanut butters out there that have artificial dye in them. So, to understand why artificial dyes are so prevalent today, let's take a step back into history. Artificial food dyes were first developed in the mid 19th century as a byproduct of coal tar. Gross. The first synthetic dye, Mulvine, was discovered in 1856 by William Henry Perkins. And after this breakthrough, it led to a rapid expansion of artificial dye in textiles. Soon after, they made their way into food production. So then by the early 20th century, food manufacturers were using these synthetic artificial dyes for the appearance of their products. However, some concerns over the safety of these products arose when dyes were found to be toxic. So, in response to that, the US Pure Food and Drug Act of 1906 was enacted to regulate additives in food. And then over the decades, the list of approved dyes has fluctuated as scientific studies uncovered health risks that are associated with certain colors. So today, while some dyes have been banned, many remain in a widespread use despite the ongoing debates about their safety. So now let's talk about the elephant in the room. Are artificial dyes safe? There have been some studies that suggest a link to hyperactivity children. In fact, the European Union has actually required warning labels on foods containing artificial dyes, while some countries have banned specific dyes altogether. There have been allergies and behavioral issues that have been also associated with these food dyes, making people rethink a lot more what they're putting in their body. I know it has me and my family, and I'll get to my story here in a moment. So, why does the FDA still approve, though, of all of these artificial dyes? Well, apparently, regulations and corporate interests play a significant role in keeping these dyes in our foods and medications. So, really, it comes down to you would think if these dyes place such a huge risk on our health that they would eliminate them altogether. Yeah, I want to say it was 2 years ago. I started reading up on artificial dyes, the effects of them, who's affected, who it mainly affects, the outcome of them all. But this also goes back to my son Ezra again, who has autism. When I really started reading up on it, about 2 years ago, Ezra would unbuckle his seatbelt. He would throw tantrums, putting his fist in our doors, kicking them, fighting on me, not like really fighting, but, just fighting to do whatever I needed him to do. And I read an article said Red 40 affects kids with autism. So I said, you know what? I'm going to try this. I'm going to start taking Red 40 out of his diet. And I started looking at everything, and it was the most overwhelming thing. I had no clue where to start. When I went to the grocery store, I noticed that artificial dyes are in almost everything and things that I never would have thought of. I know that there are other dyes out there like, yellow and blue 1, yellow 4, but I wanted to start off with red 40 because that one in the article that I read said red 40 was like the worst one for kids on the spectrum. I didn't notice much of a difference at first. He was still throwing tantrums, getting out of his seatbelt, crying uncontrollably, kicking doors, screaming, all the things, yelling back at me. And I believe it was 2 weeks that I finally started noticing a more calm Ezra. And honestly, I didn't even know if it was truly because we took the red 40 out. The back of my mind kind of said, well, maybe he's just out of that phase. But then there was a day a few months after we decided to take the red 40 out of his diet, all of those emotions he had came back, and he was kicking the door, screaming, yelling at the top of his lungs, crying, so emotional. And I said to myself, what happened? He has been so calm, so understanding. No, I didn't give him anything with red dye 40 in it. I couldn't think. And then my husband, he loves those bottle caps, candies. And apparently Ezra does too. And he wasn't thinking, I mean, we aren't perfect. There are times where he's going to have candy or a snack with artificial dyes in it. We try our best to keep it out of his diet, but you can't during holidays keep a kid from wanting Sour Patch Kids or during Christmas candy canes. Although we have figured out alternatives for most of those candies now, we're he's going to have it here and there, which is totally fine. We'll deal with the consequences, but we know that we're dealing with the consequences. So going back to that bottle caps, my husband had actually given him one not thinking, and that day when I found out he had a bottle cap candy the night before, determined my thoughts that this is a real thing. Eliminating red dye 40 out of his diet was a thing. And you never think of any of this. But when he acted out that next day and then come to find out he had those bottle caps, and that's why, because he had ate something with red dye 40 in it and hadn't had it for months, it was a confirmation for me. And I was blown away. When I started eliminating these dyes, let me take that back, the red dye 40. Because when I first started looking into everything, it was the most overwhelming thing ever. I had no clue where to start. Again, I went to the grocery stores, started looking at labels. But I specifically remember leaving the store with nothing because I was so overwhelmed. My mind, my anxiety, everything was just all over the place. And then I came across this group on Facebook that is called Die Free, and it helped relieve all that overwhelming feeling, all that anxiety so much because I could go in there. There's parents in this group that take their time to post dye free foods from Aldi's, Kroger, Walmart, all these other stores, Target, and they take their time to post these products that they find that are dye free and put it in that group. I felt a relief off my shoulder when I found this group. It was literally the best feeling, the best day for me. But in this group, you can go into the search bar there in the Facebook group and you can literally type in Aldi or just put Aldi's, or if you're looking for a specific candy and an alternative for, Skittles per se, put in Skittles and there will be pictures and information that pop up in this group of what to get, where to go, the store to go to, the brand. Again, it was a lifesaver. This was like 2 years ago when we started eliminating the red dye 40, and it's been the best thing. We have been trying to do it ourselves because in my mom guilt, if he can't eat it, I'm not gonna eat it. I feel bad. We are not perfect by no means. We make mistakes. They're not really mistakes. It's just letting my child live because on Halloween, he loves Sour Patch Kids, and that boy ate probably like 5 or 6 bags of Sour Patch Kids. Obviously, the next day was a handful, but it is what it is. He's a kid. It's a process, and if you decide to start eliminating these artificial dyes out of your diet, take your time, take a deep breath, just one by one is my best suggestion. If you wanna go in for the whole kill and take them all out of your diet at once, you go right ahead. More power to you, but I just knew with my anxiety and all the things that we have going on in our life, I couldn't do all of them at one time. So that's my personal story on the artificial red 40 dye, because again, we're slowly eliminating the others. But I also want to bring up this new documentary that came out. It is called To Die For. They started posting about it. I believe it was Instagram when I first saw this being made 2 years ago, and I told myself, I'm watching this. It looks amazing. I will put the Amazon link down below for you to go to because it is on Amazon Prime. They are working on getting on other platforms like Netflix and everything, which I really hope they do because I had pre-ordered it before they launched it, and my husband and I sat down and watched it together, and it had so much information that I thought I already knew everything there was to know about Red 40, but it interviewed moms and companies and researchers, and there is way more to it than I could have imagined. It is an amazing documentary. That's a big word. I highly suggest you go and buy it, especially if you're looking into eliminating artificial dyes out of your diet as well. If it's for you, if it's for your family, if it's for your children, definitely recommend 10 out of 10. And one huge thing that the To Die For documentary answered for me because I'm sure a lot of you have thought what I have thought, that if these dyes are such a risk for our health, why are they still in our foods and medications and snacks and drinks? Why haven't they taken these artificial dyes out of everything? Which I know that they are slowly banning certain dyes in certain states. But the truth is, they are cost effective and they make these companies market their products better, making dyes a profitable ingredient for these manufacturers, which I kind of thought that was the answer. But after watching the documentary and listening to all of these people they interviewed, it confirms everything. And a fun fact, interestingly, some countries have stricter regulations. For example, the UK, they have actually banned certain dyes that are still widely used in the US. The real question is, should we be demanding safer alternatives? And I 1000% think that we should. And that is why I love these other alternative companies that don't have artificial dyes in their candy or snacks or drinks. Oldies is our go to anymore. I feel like their products and a lot of their brands that they have in the store don't have these artificial dyes. Again, I still double, triple check. So you might be asking, how can you protect yourself and your family from unnecessary exposure to all these artificial dyes? My first and biggest suggestion is definitely read the labels. It does take a little bit more time when you first start to go grocery shopping and having to look at the labels on everything. But once you get used to those products, then you know the next time that's what you're going to be getting and you can add it to your grocery list. But you definitely want to look out for red 40. That's like the number one cause of a lot of issues right now and health risks. There's yellow 5 as well. And then there's also other artificial colorants and ingredients lists. So just be aware of dyes that are in medications, whether it be over the counter or prescription, because they are in both. What we do is ask our doctor when it comes to Ezra specifically, because we know it truly affects him, to give alternative. Our pediatrician doctor is amazing and she, already knows beforehand to make sure she gets, the medication that doesn't have artificial dyes in it if needed when he's sick. Just remember, small changes can make a huge difference. And again, take your time with it. I will link the Facebook group that I'm in below. I will also link the To Die For documentary below. I believe you can rent or buy it. I personally bought it because I plan to let my family watch it as well too. My sister-in-law and I actually watched it together and she was blown away by it because of the information that is actually in it. So, highly recommend. Even if you want to rent it and just watch it for a night. I could give you all the information from it, but I'm not going to do that. In fun fact, the mom of the couple that did the documentary, her name is Whitney. Hey girl. If today's episode got you thinking, share it with someone who might benefit from this information. Let's push for greater transparency in our food and healthcare industries. As always, thank you so much for tuning in and supporting Layers of Life. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, like, share, comment below on things you may want to hear. That rhymed. I'm a poet and I didn't even know it. I'll see you all next time.